It's Geordie Journos, you probably hear in the background. There seems to be a little bit of a training game going on.
It's Newcastle still trying to score. Sorry,
It's about right. Yeah, I don't think you make too many complaints. We're going to keep this one short and sweet because we've got trains to catch to get back, and of course we are hoping to join you guys on Christmas Day for a bit of a special. Might have a slight negative feel to it, who knows, but we'll try and keep things positive. Right, I'll come to you first, Jordan. Give us your thoughts on that 1-0 loss to Luton.
Dismal in many ways, but spoke Eddie Howe in the press conference. He said that the first half performance cost Newcastle. I would argue it was the full 90 minutes. Never looked like scoring today. There was a couple of chances. Alexander Isak has had a goal this it was offside anyway, but VAR checked it, so offside. Apart from that, Newcastle haven't really came close.
Can I make a comment on that?
Yes, go on.
Right, so I don't know what anybody else's thoughts out there. There might be some kind of analysis that goes on beyond that goal, but I think it's really petty for anybody to suggest that it is onside. Because most people, if it were gone towards Newcastle, you wouldn't be complaining that it was onside, offside. I've seen some people suggest, oh, the lines aren't great, and that it wasn't really offside. I think even Eddie Howe entertained the suggestion that it was potentially onside. I'm sorry, but I'm all for Newcastle United, but you can't have it all ways. You can't suddenly decide VAR is right and wrong when it suits your decision. Look, some go for you, some don't. It's still a little bit. The lines are still drawn by the referees, effectively, who are involved in the process. It isn't the automated system or semi-automated, which you see in FIFA games and Champions League, etc. And until it is, then you're going to get these grey areas. But I do think it's a little bit rich for anybody to suggest that, it was on, it was off, it was whatever. It's the decision, and you have to take the decision as it is. Sorry, Jordan, but
no,
I just kind of wanted to say that because I thought it was a little bit. I think Friday how to entertain that, I thought was a bit disappointing in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was flagged offside. If anything had counted, it would have bailed Newcastle out. Let's be honest. I think Dan Burney even alluded at the end of his interview, Newcastle were out-battled, and I think Luton wanted it more. There was a lot of emotion here today on the back of the Tom Lockyer situation, but that's no excuse for Newcastle's side. They came into today's game on the back of a Carabao Cup exit, needing to bounce back, and they didn't get close to doing that. It all goes back to the away troubles. The away form is staggeringly bad. Fourth bottom in the Premier League for away form, second top for home form. So when you look at them, it's quite astonishing that Newcastle find themselves in seventh, because the away form last season was a big positive. They found ways to dig in, see games out, but I think you look at the away form as well. It's one clean sheet in 18 away games, so that tells the story.
I didn't even realise.
I know, which tells the story.
It does.
The defensive solidity that this club had last season with Nick Pope, a settled back line, in many ways has gone out the window. So there's big concerns in terms of the away form. But if we could take one positive, is the fact that they do. Well, they're back at home on Boxing Day, where they simply need to react.
You're right about that though. Because last season, I think a lot of people overlooked how lucky Newcastle United got in some ways with injuries, but that back five was largely untouched for 95% of the season, and it makes a big difference when you have that continuity. It's been anything but untouched this season. It's been changed so often, and will likely be
in the game today.
Yes, and will likely be changed again because of that. Yeah, I think it's. The biggest disappointment for me is in 2 games we've taken a long trip down here to London, into the London area, wider London area, of course Chelsea and then Luton, and I struggle to think if Newcastle ain't really creating anything. Of course the Wilson header, Wilson scored out of nothing really at Chelsea, but it was a defensive hold on to what you've got performance, and today it was the opposite, where they were given all of the ball by Luton, but just lacked any guile, creativity, any craft in that final third to open up the opposition. And as you alluded to earlier, Jordan, for me it was, they could have still been played now when we record this video, some 90 minutes after the game itself, and I'm not really certain that they would have got another one. Dom, thoughts?
Well, first team not to score against Luton Town this season, which is a damning stat. And yeah, I agree with you. I don't think Newcastle really looked like scoring, other than that opening they created with Alexander Isak, and Callum Wilson probably should have done better in the first half. But yeah,
He has to score.
yeah.
If he scores, it could be a different game. You don't know. If the Isak thing goes your way. But I'm sick of talking about the fine margins. The facts, the reality is, this team is really struggling at the minute.
Football's all about fine margins, and there's an element of luck, but more often than not, if you're a good team and you
Get what you deserve.
yeah, exactly. And Newcastle got what they deserved today, which was nothing. And as good as it's been under Eddie Howe for the vast majority of his spell, I feel like this is probably one of the lowest periods of his time at the club. There was always that hope when he first arrived they'd get out of it, and they eventually did. And last season there was almost hardly any lows, but past few weeks exiting the cup competitions, the away form, we're going into games thinking, we're travelling down on the train today, Luton, newly promoted club, first visit to Kenilworth Road, and we're thinking they could do a job on us today.
None of us sit on the train this morning when we came down and thought we'd win this game. Really did we?
No.
You hoped we might be able to produce a performance and rekindle something from last season, or maybe a cup performance or two that they've had this season. But we never felt we'd win.
Yet I can count on probably one hand the amount of away games we went to last season thinking, ooh, I'm not sure if Newcastle will win today. You're probably Man City and Liverpool, and then
You back them against anybody.
anything else you're looking. But such is Newcastle's away form and the problems. Why the disparity, Eddie Howe doesn't know, but as Jordan touched on, did they lack desire today? That was a question I asked Eddie Howe. Did Luton want it more? And Eddie Howe said, he struggled to answer it, but he did say Newcastle lacked a lot of things in the game, and emotion was one of them. So reading between the lines, he probably wanted more from his players, and implied that Luton did want it more on the day, which I think they did. So yeah, very disappointing. Still somehow 7th in the table, so you take a step back, look at the bigger picture, playing at home on Boxing Day, but that home game on Boxing Day becomes all the bigger, all the more tense, because then you look at the games after that: Liverpool, Sunderland, Man City, Aston Villa. I mean, in terms of the Premier League games at least, partnered with a derby game at Sunderland, I don't think there'll be much tougher runs in the league at the moment. So yeah, it's a frustrating time for Newcastle. Where they go from here, I'm not sure, but 3 points on Boxing Day would certainly help paper over some cracks in terms of the away form. And yeah, I think it's probably one too many players out there today. Just we're playing it, we've touched on before, probably 50-60%, other than opposed to the 100% we've seen previously.
Well, let's go into that. I mean, I've done some analysis which will either go timestamp in this, will either go up Saturday night or maybe Sunday, depending on when we put that out on Newcastle. But in my analysis, I've actually gone through some of the players, and one that I will pick out as well, I'll pick 3 out for this video. I would say Miguel Almiron, for all of the purple patches, has been in awful form recently.
Yeah.
And I think it's the execution of what he does. Look, there are caveats to everything that we talk about here. For me, of course, Miguel Almiron has probably been one of the most flogged players going. That also applies to Anthony Gordon, who is in this 3 that I'm going to talk about now, and Callum Wilson. I didn't feel that front 3 was anywhere close to working today. I thought when they needed Callum Wilson, he had a right battle with the centre-half, but when they needed him to hold it up, he didn't. When it needed to stick, he didn't. And when the chance fell his way, he didn't take it. I thought he was disappointing in many ways, and I like Callum Wilson. But Anthony Gordon and Miguel Almiron genuinely look like they're players who are running it. Anthony Gordon isn't even at half speed at the moment. He isn't even close. Is that because he's carrying an injury? And what I would ask is, if he's carrying an injury, he shouldn't be on the pitch. You can't have a player running about at 30%. It doesn't look anywhere near, and it's actually affecting the player. It's affecting the team in general. They're losing. They may as well have 10 players. And I think that's one symptom of this difficult run, even when they've got results, is a persistence in playing players who are clearly, or look to the untrained eye, which I would say, I'm not there every day with them, I don't see their medical reports, I don't see exactly how they've trained every single day, but to the untrained eye who only sees them once or twice a week, Anthony Gordon to me looks a million miles away from where he was 6 weeks ago, and he seems to be a lad who is picking up knocks every time he plays, or carrying one at the same time. And I would have begged the question, he shouldn't really be playing, really, if he's carrying an injury, because it isn't helping him, and it's certainly not helping his team. Miguel Almiron on the other side, like I say, for all the purple patches that he has, and his work rate masks a multitude of sins in many ways, but his execution in the final third in this poor run has been very, very poor. There's been key moments in games, you can go back to the Chelsea game, you can go back to certain points today, where better execution in that final third would get points for Newcastle United, and it just has not been able to produce that. But this is something that's gone back quite some time. I think you'll struggle to find a Newcastle United fan who didn't think an upgrade in that department last summer was imperative, and it didn't come. Of course, injuries may have curtailed plans to maybe play Barnes on one side and Gordon on the other. We don't know. Without getting into Eddie Howe's mind, we don't really know what that is. All I find with the front three is there is no craft, no guile, and bar one cross into the box from Anthony Gordon, which Callum Wilson should score from, there was little to no output from any of those three players, and to be honest, that is really poor from against a team who are effectively newly promoted. Have done well here at Kenilworth Road, but haven't really beaten many teams here, and have struggled for points this season. That's a poor return. I think those three players will have to look at themselves and say, did I leave everything out there? And if I did, then what is the underlying problem there? And if there is an underlying problem, that's something that Eddie Howe needs to fix and solve. And I'd love to think, like I say, there's caveats to all of this, so I can have these opinions, but also believe that there are reasons as to why those players are being flogged. But again, that falls on the manager. It's the manager who live and die by these decisions, and I think the decision not to further strengthen in the forward areas, I do believe they still could have strengthened and kept, in an ideal world, if money was no object, you would have kept Alan St Maximin and brought another one in as well as Harvey Barnes. That's what you probably would have done, because we've harked back to it before, but Chris Wood's never been replaced. Chris Wood is a limited centre forward who needed improved upon. He was let go, and there's never been anybody come in to fill that third striker role, where even times like today, where they ran out of ideas, Isak came on and had a 20-minute impact, but again, he looks like a player who's running, his sprints are 40% of the speed that he used to run at. They're not even close to halfway. He doesn't look fit either. So when you run out of ideas at the end of games, it wouldn't have harmed to have had another option to be able to throw into that final third, just to try and unlock the door to get somebody else or an extra body on things. And I think they've had a massive oversight in the summer in not improving in that department. I feel like I've gone around the world there. I don't want to take up this whole video. We've also got a train to catch. So is there any topics that you want to address? I feel like one of you, because I don't want to hog it too much, but somebody needs to address Kieran Trippier, because I thought he was in a world of negativity almost after that game, where there feels like there's more questions than answers for Newcastle United. Kieran Trippier was much improved.
Yeah, he was running a little bit ragged early on, but I thought he gained his composure quite quickly, made a few really good tackles and got forward. He was limited a little bit, but got forward certainly in the second half when Newcastle were pushing for an equaliser, and again things went through him, but when Newcastle play well, things so often go through Kieran Trippier, so they rely on him to produce the delivery. He didn't quite do that, but yeah, in a game full of poor performances from Newcastle, I thought Kieran Trippier was one of the better performers. Just on Anthony Gordon in general though, I think he's one player who, look, as good as he's been for Newcastle all throughout this season until recently, I think if you look back, Sheffield United away, Newcastle's only away win is probably the one time he's shown up away from home. He tends to be likes his home comfort, and I think Newcastle in general, they need almost 52,000 home fans backing them on just to have that belief to go on and win and try things different and be more positive. But yeah,
that's unsustainable, isn't it?
No,
it's unsustainable.
If you want
to
finish
to have to rely
when
on
Newcastle
home form, and you can't have a season where you're in the relegation contenders away from home, but you're in Champions League contenders at home, because you will end up where you deserve to be, and that'll be halfway down the league.
Yeah, we were talking about it, us travelling today, going to a game not thinking Newcastle were going to win. To what degree do the players start to think that it's another away game, we haven't won, we've lost 4 in a row away from home, Liverpool up next? where's your head going to be after that? So that's a concern moving forward as well.
Well, that winning feeling can be infectious, so
Yes.
too can not winning, and it almost feels like they're in a little bit of a rut. Is that one win in 6 in all competitions? And it was gifted to them on a, as we like to say, on a silver platter at Fulham with a red card effectively. Although they did well to break down the door there, they showed no signs of breaking down the door here at Kenilworth Road. I think you described it as a light tap. Hello, I'm here.
A light tap on the door. Yeah, they weren't knocking on the door.
They weren't knocking down the door, were they?
They were like stroking the door.
Sounds a bit weird.
Let me in. A light tap, yeah.
Well, let's hope Santa does a little bit more than just stroke your door this Christmas time. Right. Anything to add, Jordan, before I wrap it up?
No, wrap it up. We've got a train to catch.
We've got a train to catch. Right, T's and C's. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Geordie Journal's content. Click the bell. You know what to do. And we'll see you, hopefully, on Christmas Day.